Who's that?
Matthew?
I don't know if he did respond to me. I mean, we do have a quorum right now.
Mhm.
And he usually walks in a little bit late, even when he does. Let me see. I don't recall seeing him. Yeah, I don't know if he responded.
Okay, I'm showing 8:30. Jesus, if you want to start.
Sure. Okay, well, good morning. We'll call this meeting to order at 8:30 a.m. For the audience today, I am the vice chair and serve as the presiding officer for today's meeting. Before we move forward, I would like to announce that in response to executive orders issued by Governor Newsom, the city is conducting a teleconference public meeting utilizing Zoom video communications. This allows the city to continue to conduct essential business and comply with public health administration recommendations to protect the public and city employees, practice social distancing, and limit exposure by not allowing in-person public meeting. To ensure that the public will be able to participate, public comments can be submitted as live comments during the Zoom meeting and via email at publiccomments@cityofglendora.org. That's publiccomments@cityofglendora.org. So, Madam Clerk, will you please conduct the roll call?
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each board member respond with the word present when their name is called. Board Member Snyder.
Present.
Board Member Jarvis.
Present.
Board Member Hirth.
Present.
Board Member Klinger hasn't joined yet. Vice Chair Adiaga.
Present.
We have 4 members present. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, if you can join me, we are going to face the flag either on your screen or the nearest flag you have, and we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Having over our heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands,
One
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Does anyone wish to reorder or add to the agenda?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. This is our open public comment period. We can invite members of the public to address the Business Improvement District or BID on items listed on the agenda. And speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. You please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you would like to request to speak, select the raised hand icon in the Zoom before the close of the public comment period, and you will then be called on when your turn is up to speak. Have any public comments been received?
At this moment, we have received no correspondence via the public comment email portal, and we haven't received any on the Zoom link. If anybody's wishing to speak, if they can use the raise icon.
Lorena or Kathleen, my mistake, but we normally have Joe give a report. Could we do that now or under the special items?
No, we could do a report from Joe right now. That's not a problem.
Okay. Joe, can I invite you?
Okay, thank you. I didn't know I was giving a report today. I didn't see. Well, okay. Thank you everybody for allowing me to speak today. My name is Joe. I'm the president and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce. Chamber has been doing since 1903, helping businesses succeed, and then most recently, just trying to help relaunch our local economy here with our Glendora businesses. Also currently working with the city which we'll be talking about, I believe, at the next council meeting on Tuesday, a new COVID-related grant program where local Glendora businesses can apply. Final details haven't been solidified, but I've been talking with people to try to get some pre-interest in them for business to be able to apply for the grants to assist them with rent and front facade, outdoor customer service stuff, back bills, utilities, employee costs, and much more. So stay tuned for more on that. I think I will have a Zoom presentation of it, kind of do a big meeting, and then once we go to launch it. So if anybody has questions about that, just let me know. Other than that, we continue. We are live with our networking mixers, which we do have one next Thursday. So you can go on our calendar for that. And then we also today at noon have our Legislative Action Economic Development Committee meeting, which is via Zoom, where members can come on and hear from all of our different reps and such to see what's going on. So other than that, if anybody has any questions, you know where I am. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I just want to make it for the record, Board Member Klinger has joined the meeting as well. Do we have anybody else wishing to provide a public comment on the Zoom? Okay, we have none. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll close the public comment period. Thank you, Joe, for that report. Appreciate it. We'll move on to board statements and reports. So I'll call on each individual board member to see if there's any quick board statements or reports. So Board Member Snyder.
I don't have any reports.
Board Member Jarvis.
I just want to say thank you for welcoming me to the bid, and it's a pleasure to serve.
Excellent. We're glad you're on. Board Member Hirth.
No reports.
Board Member Klinger.
No reports for me.
All right. And that leaves me. So I do have an announcement that I'd like to make. I have submitted my resignation from the bid board. Back in May, my wife and I actually moved out of Glendora. We sold our home and we now reside in Lake Arrowhead up in the hills. So we're mountain people, at least for now. And I've long contemplated and been thinking about how this was going to kind of affect my involvement. And after a long thought through the process, I just felt that I'm not in the city like I used to be. I lived on Glendora Avenue, so I used to be there all the time. And to be effective on this board, as a bid board member, you really need to be there plugged in. And I think it's fair or unfair for me to occupy a seat where I really can't stay as involved and serve the rest of the bid community as I had would like to. Love Glendora, always have. We were there for, I think 20 something years. Can't even remember how long. Although TalWorks will continue to maintain a virtual office there at the Martindale Executive Center, we'll always have, and that's where our address will be. And we'll continue our involvement in the chamber and support events as we can. One of my agents is kind of taking over being involved in the chamber and staying connected with all of our businesses. And I come in as I can. But again, it just came to a point where I realized I'm not going to be able to serve as I would like to. So I felt it was appropriate for me to submit my resignation. I did ask offer to the city council that I could stay on until the end of the year to help with the transition and time to announce and get candidates and go through that process. To ensure that I don't leave a hole, and I've also mentioned that as some activities come up, I certainly can provide input. For example, the wine walk. That there was a lot of that's a pretty big event, and there was a lot of involvement there with different aspects. So when that time comes, when we can have that again, I certainly can be available to provide guidance and involvement as well. So With that, I just want to thank the City Council, the bid community there up and down the village, and my fellow bid board members for trusting me to be on the bid board. A lot, I think, has been definitely accomplished over the time that we were there. I've enjoyed working with all of my fellow bid board members, and regret that I won't be able to work with our new ones like yourself, Kathy, and but I'll be staying connected and making sure that I just kind of be part of the process as much as I can there in the village. So so thank you again for the opportunity, and it's been a pleasure, and just seeing our village area just continue to thrive. So so with that, I just wish everybody all the best. I'm not going away today. I'll be here through the end of December, but wanted to just kind of make that announcement. So okay. With that, we will call on any statements from Director Kugel.
I don't have any statements today. I'll ask Valerie if she has anything she wanted to say this morning.
No announcements. Just welcome to Kathy. Welcome back to Lal and Jesus. Sorry to hear you're resigning, but appreciate all the contributions you've made and your ability to stay on till the rest of the year.
Thank you. So with that, I'll call on City Clerk, Communications Director Kathleen Sussman to present a report.
Thank you very much. I'm here to give a brief update on the Brown Act executive orders and AB 361. As everybody knows, back in March of 2020, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency. Shortly after that, he also issued several executive orders that impacted how Brown Act public meetings could be held. These orders became collectively known as the Brown Act orders. Well, those orders expired on September 30th. And because of that, the governor passed Senate Bill AB 361 to allow the cities to continue to conduct virtual meetings or teleconference meetings under certain circumstances. So that bill was signed into effect on September 16th. The City Council received an update on the 28th of September, and they adopted a resolution that allows the city to continue conducting virtual or teleconference meetings. And that resolution will have to be reviewed and reapproved every 30 days. Now, the main reason we're moving forward with virtual meetings is there's still two protocols that the city has to address when doing public meetings. The first one is the masking component. Any in a building or inside facility meetings require masking, not only of both non-vaccinated and vaccinated people. We don't really have a way of addressing that right now. I don't know. We've tried conducting some hybrid meetings where some people were in person and some people were virtual. And what we found is when the mask component is involved, it's really hard to tell, one, who's talking, and it's hard to understand what they're saying. So because of this and the importance of wanting to make sure that any direction and information provided both to you and the public is clear and concise, council felt, at least until the masking component could be addressed, to continue with those virtual meetings. Council will be reviewing this resolution, again, like I said, every 30 days. State and federal and county mandates or protocols relating to COVID change pretty much on a daily basis. So at any point that can change, and we will be probably providing you with more updates on this issue. So you guys will have a better idea of when in-person meetings can return. Most likely when we go back to in-person meetings. It will be probably some sort of a hybrid that will allow have a virtual component to it, but we don't know exactly what that would look like at this time. So the resolution that was adopted by the council on the 28th is good until October 30th. Another resolution will be presented for council consideration at their meeting on the 26th. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. So thank you for allowing me to come before you and give you the short update. I'm sorry it doesn't have some of the answers I know everybody's waiting for, but we still have to comply with all the federal, state, and local and county protocols with COVID. Are there any questions?
No.
I think we're good. All right, we do have on the agenda the selection of chair and vice chair. So I'm going to ask the recording admin who has a statement regarding that.
So this morning, we are welcoming 2 new board members, Kathy Jarvis, which from Kathy's Wishing Well, and Delal Snyder from Glendora Florist. And with the sad announcement of the resignation from Vice Chair Arriaga, the staff is actually recommending that we postpone the selection of chair and vice chair to the next meeting of November 4th. Do we have any objections to postponing it?
No.
Seeing no objections, the bid reorganization will be postponed to the November 4th meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Moving on to the consent calendar. Do we need to do anything here?
So we need to request a motion and a second, but since Delal and Kathy were not present, I would like them to abstain from the vote on this approval. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Business Improvement District for the June 3rd to 2021 meeting?
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Sorry, I
have a
tried to find my unmute button.
I figured, that's why I wanted to wait. Do we have a second? We have a second? It's either Jesus or Matt.
I'll second.
Okay. So a motion was made by Board Member Hurd, seconded by Vice Chair Arriaga to approve consent calendar items number 4 as presented. So I'll now call for a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder.
I abstain.
Thank you. Board Member Jarvis.
Abstain.
Board Member Hurd.
Aye.
Board Member Klingler.
Yes.
And Vice Chair Arriaga.
Yes.
Motion carries with 3-2 with 2 abstentions. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our next item, board agenda items. There are no board agenda items, so we'll move on to any unfinished business. And at present, there is no unfinished business as well. So we will go to new business. And we're going to the letter of support for the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government. For fiscal year 2022 to 2025, Measure M, Sub-Regional Program Grant Application. I'm going to invite Transportation Manager Mateer to present the report, and then any questions or discussions from the commission. So.
Thank you, Vice Chair. My name is Stephen Mateer. I'm the Transportation Manager for the City of Glendora. The item before you is a request for a letter of support from the BID Board of Directors for a grant application. Next slide, please. So this is for what we're calling the Glendora People Movement Project. So I'll talk a little bit about what the project is. It's an amalgamation of a few things that the BID has seen, but really this is kind of a new packaging for it. We'll talk about our outreach that we've done, the project schedule, and then our next steps. Next slide, please. So the Glendora People Movement Project is a combination of our urban trail and first last mile. So for those who may not remember or are unfamiliar with this, the urban trails are our off-road bike and pedestrian paths along the flood control channels in the city. First last mile, which I know the BID has seen several iterations of, are street and sidewalk improvements intended to make access to the new Gold Line station easy and safe as possible, and to support economic development in the village. The total project is around 9 miles of improvements, so it's a pretty comprehensive network of improvements. The goal here is to make walking and biking safer for all ages and abilities. And we're looking at a little over $17 million of total project cost, which may change depending on scope and refinement. Next slide, please. This map, and I apologize, is probably a little bit hard to read, but this gives you a sense of the scope of the project. The magenta line, those are the first last mile projects. So that goes on Foothill Boulevard from Citrus College to the village, and on Glendora Avenue from Route 66 up to the village at Foothill and Glendora. What that is, that's a combination of bicycle lanes, sidewalk improvements, crossing improvements, signage and wayfinding, as well as other kind of placemaking improvements. The green dashed areas, those are our urban trails. So those are on the major flood control channels within the city. There's a little piece that we're calling the Gold Line connector. That is an easement that the Gold Line is in the process of deeding to the city once they're complete with the project. And as I mentioned, what these are off-road, or what are called Class 1 bike lanes. So what we have right now is, if you've seen it near Louis Pompey Park, is phase 1 of the urban trail. So that's on the San Dimas Wash in the southeast part of the city, or the lower left hand as you're looking at the map. These are separated. They are asphalt paths with native landscaping, signage and wayfinding, and interpretive signs. And really, this is a way to get people to feel safer walking and biking across town. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, these are fully separated. The only interaction users of the facility have are at crossings, which are going to be enhanced with what are called rectangular flashing beacons, as well as enhanced crosswalks. They go along the 3 flood control channels. So that's the Little Dalton Wash from Colby Trail to Finkbeiner, on Big Dalton from the, I believe that's Glendora Mountain Road, down through to the high school. It has to skip down Lorraine, and then it picks up just south of Route 66 and skirts along South Hills to Barranca. The San Dimas Wash is completed to Sunflower and Gladstone, so this will be an extension from that intersection over to Grand and Arrow Highway. This allows us to connect with Azusa and Covina, and I'm happy to announce that Covina has partnered with us as part of this grant. So they'll be looking at doing improvements on Grand and Glendora Avenue to link up with our investments. Next slide, please. So I mentioned, first last mile, for those that aren't familiar with this concept, it's a newer planning concept. And what it looks at is, once someone leaves their house, how do they get to the train station safely and effectively? And then once they're on their trip and then they get off, are they able to find their way to school, to hospital, to work? So it's really looking at the bookends of the trip and making that as pleasant as possible. Next slide, please. So in Glendora, the long-term goals that we have are to connect our station to the village. The station, fortunately, is situated behind a number of buildings, and it's not intuitive, if you're not from Glendora, how to get up to the village. So really making that connection as intuitive and safe as possible is a priority. Looking at improving road safety, we've noticed just from our demonstration projects as well as outreach, speed is a factor, as well as making sure that children or people that aren't necessarily comfortable riding in traffic are able to utilize the streets to get to the Gold Line. And lastly is economic development. There's really a unique opportunity here to leverage the once in a lifetime investment of the Gold Line coming to Glendora and really capitalizing on that energy that's coming in. Next slide, please. So what are the projects? They break down into 2 components. One is on Glendora Avenue, and that's a protected raised bike lane, a protected intersection, which I'll show you in the next slides, a roundabout at Glendora and Ada, various crossing improvements, signage and wayfinding, as well as bus stop improvements. On Foothill Boulevard, it's similar bike lanes. It's a combination of protected and what are called buffered bike lanes. Again, crossing improvements, wayfinding, and another really exciting development recently is we've partnered with Citrus College and Foothill Transit to add another layover area near Citrus College. So that'll remove buses from having to stop in the traffic lane to let their drivers get rest. as well as have a better waiting experience for students looking to board Foothill to get to and from campus. Next slide, please. So this gives you, again, kind of an overview of the first last mile corridors. And on the bottom left is, bottom left, excuse me, is the approximate construction schedule. So right now we're seeking grant funding for our projects, and that'll lead us into our environmental and design phases, which will last about a year and a half, depending on any design issues that come up. Construction, we anticipate taking about 2 to 3 years. And then once that's done, that should hopefully line us up with the opening of the Gold Line at the end of 25 or in 2026, depending on when it opens up. What else this map shows too is the council directed us to look at 4 priority corridors. The first 2 are Glendora and Foothill. Ada and Vermont are kind of in the second tier, and those will be looked at once we've secured funding for Foothill and Glendora. Next slide, please. So this will run through the renderings and the concepts that we have. So this is Glendora Avenue looking north at Ada. Next slide, please. And this is our proposal. So it is a pretty dramatic transformation. What you see here is a roundabout. This is a good sense of kind of the enhanced crossing, the landscaping that we can do, as well as the signage. And I'll point out too, this roundabout is in the general plan and in the Aero Highway specific plan. So this is something that's been around for a while. And this is really an opportunity for us to implement that. And what we've seen here is that Ada and Glendora, it doesn't have enough traffic necessarily to justify a street light or a traffic signal. But really a roundabout here is the appropriate way to manage the flow through here safely and efficiently. Next slide, please. This is Glendora Avenue looking south, just as you see in front of Equine Insurance. Next slide, please. And this gives you a sense of kind of the streetscape and economic development that we're looking at, as well as, again, the signage. To the left, you'll notice that is what the raised bike lane will look like, and we've maintained angled parking. So luckily, there will not be a reduction in parking on Glendora Avenue. And so we're really hoping here is to activate some of the area further south of the village and really leverage, again, the energy coming in. Next slide, please. This is looking north at Glendora Avenue and at, oh, it's okay, go ahead, proceed to the next slide. This shows you one of really our focus area here, which is at Carroll and in Glendora Avenue. The crossing is extremely unsafe. Council members noted that a couple times people have been hit here. I know from our experience with the demonstration bike lane that we did, there were a lot more people crossing here when we narrowed the street and basically allowed people to have more, less time, increased the time they had to look and see cars and to get across. This here would have what we're calling curb extensions and allow us to have some areas for like a pocket park or some type of programming on the street. Again, you'll see a sense of what the raised bike lane would look like. Next slide, please. This is at Foothill and Glendora. And next slide, please. And this is, I think, is one of the more innovative improvements that we're talking about. This is what, when we say a protected intersection, this is what we're referring to. What this allows is for bicyclists and pedestrians to move with traffic as opposed to what bicyclists have to do now, which is to either cut across traffic to make turns or to have a conflict at the intersection. This allows the bicyclists and the pedestrians to stay within their own lane or they're in their own crosswalk area and allows the drivers to have better line of sight as they're turning. This is widely considered to be the safest intersection design. And given, again, that we anticipate a lot more walking through the village, really making sure that we have safe access is critical. I've personally, walking here with my child and talking to other parents, this has been an area of concern too, with drivers turning left and not seeing people in the crosswalk. So really, this is something that we're focused on, recognizing that, again, there's gonna be people with strollers, people in walkers or wheelchairs. So really trying to make the intersection safe for not just people walking and biking, but also for drivers as well. Next slide, please. So this is concepts on Foothill Boulevard. So this is at Foothill Grand. Next slide, please. And this is again with the flyover that the Gold Line is building. We'll notice here, this is what we're calling the buffered bike lanes. So we use paint to create a little bit of a travel buffer for maintaining the on-street parking. But as again, similar with Glendora Avenue, we're standardizing the lanes. So here on Foothill, it'll be one travel lane each direction with street parking, bike lane, and crossing improvements. Next slide, please. This is further down, so this is looking towards Vista Bonita. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, but looking towards Vermont, excuse me. And again, this gives you a sense of the buffered bike lane with a center turn median and maintaining, again, on-street parking. Next slide, please. As part of our community outreach, this has really been, depending on which part of the project we're talking about, has been either a decade in the works or definitely in the past 3 years. The Urban Trail Master Plan was done, I believe, in 2011 as part of the Parks Master Plan. The Metro First Last Mile Plan started in 2018, concluded in 2019, and also culminated in the council adopting priority corridors and directing staff for further refinement. We also held 2 demonstration projects. One was during the holiday stroll in 2019, and the last one, which you probably remember, was the 5-month demonstration on Glendora Avenue. It was a really, from a public outreach standpoint, it was great. We reached 573 people with a survey, which is incredible. And really, we got a lot of great feedback from the community on what worked and what didn't work, and that's something we'll be carrying into the design process. We're now looking at, so the council also authorized us to bundle the Urban Trail and First Last Mile projects together into what's called now the People Movement for submittal to a congressional earmark, which we were notified that we are in the House Transportation Bill, but we are waiting on Congress to approve everything. So we're in limbo with everything in Washington right now for some significant piece of funding there. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, in terms of next step, what we're requesting for letter of support is for $3.5 million. That is to leverage the earmark as well as the city's money that we've already put into the project. We'll be maintaining dialogue with stakeholders through what we have is called an environmental process as well as our design process, and looking to continue that momentum. And part of that momentum is applying for grants to finalize design and to implement the construction pieces. Next slide, please. And so our request to the bid board of directors is to authorize the board chair or the designee to sign a letter of support for submittal to the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. And with that, I can answer any questions the board has.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll turn it over to my fellow bid board members to see if there are any questions or discussion.
I have a question. When is this gonna start?
So right now we are in the what's called the environmental phase, and so we're looking at different impacts. So, for example, on the urban trails, we look at habitat issues and species. If we're impacting any endangered species, that's a pretty quick process typically with these types of projects. And so we're in the design. Well, moving into the design phase. So we're about 1.5 years away, at assuming we can get some more grant funding of construction. And we hopefully would start in about 23 or 23 timeframe to build.
Okay. And then for the area on Foothill Boulevard and Glendora Avenue, is that kind of like the same time frame?
Yes. Yeah. The San Dimas wash is the furthest along. That is really close to being what's called final design and ready for construction. So likely that'll be done first, and then we'll be moving through design on the other pieces that I mentioned.
Thank you so much. That looks fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry, that was going to be my question. Is this the final design, or could there be some modifications?
So yeah, for the first last mile, those are at pretty conceptual stages. So there is room to make adjustments as we go through. So that, yeah, San Dimas Wash is pretty much, again, that's pretty much designed as it is. Little and Big Dalton have no plans done. So that'll be next. That's another avenue we need to work on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? So then the letter is just a simple letter of support from a formality perspective to assist with getting the funding. That's the only commitment that the bid board is making, right?
Yeah, just that you support the project and the city pursuing the funds, correct?
Okay. So then if there's no more questions, then the recommendation is to authorize the chair or designee, which I would probably assume it's me,
Yes.
to sign a letter of support for the Glendora People Movement submittal to the San Gabriel Valley Council of Government for this fiscal year 2022 to 2025 Measure M Sub-Regional Program Grant Program. So with that, we're looking for a motion to be made.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second, okay.
Okay.
So I have
we
a
got it.
motion by Board Member Hirth and seconded by Board Member Klingler. I will now call for a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder,
Hi.
Board Member Jarvis,
Aye.
Board Member Hirth,
Aye.
Board Member Klingler. Board Member Klinger,
Yes, sorry.
that's okay. Vice Chair Arriaga,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you all for that. We're going to move on to our Business Improvement District or Bid Advisory Board fiscal year 2021-2022 financial report for August 31st, 2021, and our expenditures as well. So with that, I'm going to invite our Housing Economic Development Manager, Valerie Velasquez, to give us a report.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone again. So this is just the update that we provide you whenever we meet, and you'll go ahead and we'll provide you with the revenues that have been received as well as expenditures that have been spent. So this summary, as mentioned, goes through August 31st. About 17% of the fiscal year complete. We start on July 1st every year. And so as of August 31st, the revenues in were at about 24% of our budget for the assessments, 13% as a total, bringing in a total of 12,838. And the expenditures are just at about 1% of the annual budget at 1,339. We will be entering into our event season, talk a little bit about that shortly. And then just to clarify, you do have in your packet an itemized list of expenditures. However, just when you do look at that, please note, as I mentioned, the fiscal year does start July 1st. This one does include some expenses from last year. So you'll really want to pay more attention to the annual summary that we provided. But if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you, Valerie. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
No.
Any other? The only thing I would mention is obviously we have a good amount of cash in the what do we call that?
We do have about $122,000 in our cash
Reserves.
balance fund. Yes.
Yeah. So, and obviously we know that that's there because of the lack of some of the activities that didn't take place during the whole COVID season, which we're still in. So my encouragement to the rest of my bid board members is, as we kind of get a feel for what's loosening up and allowing us to have some activities, like we're going to have some reports here, is that we just continue to kind of keep an eye on that. We spent probably the better part of 3 years prior to COVID working on the budget to get it down to more of a balanced budget. And I think that the year before COVID hit, we definitely got into a flat kind of balanced budget rather than going into the negative and pulling on the reserves that were in play. So my encouragement is that continues. And although once things lower or open up a little bit more, we're going to have definitely some funds there that can be utilized towards some of those things or some new activities. But certainly my encouragement is to keep mindful of still maintaining that balanced budget going forward as much as possible. So.
And not to go into too much detail, but yes, we have additional funds, and I would encourage everyone to kind of talk to your, your fellow business owners out there, because really what we need is volunteers to make things happen as well.
Yes, thank you for that. All right, with that, we're looking for a motion to receive and file the report.
I make the motion to receive and file the report.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was her.
That was Kathy, but.
Thank you. That's what I want to make sure. So we have a motion made by Board Member Snyder, seconded by Board Member Jarvis. I will now call for a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder,
Aye.
Board Member Jarvis,
Aye.
Board Member Hirth,
Aye.
Board Member Klingler,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Arriaga.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all. Moving on to our next agenda item. This is consideration of an amendment extending the agreement with marketing consultant Micmac Agency. So I'm going to invite back our Housing and Economic Development Manager, Valerie Velasquez, to present that report.
Thank you, Jesus. And Lorena, I do have a PowerPoint. Thank you. So again, this is an amendment to go ahead and extend the agreement that we currently have with our marketing consultant. Next slide, please. And as you're aware, one of the primary goals of the bid is to go ahead and market the Glendora Village. And we do that through the website as well as through social media, our events, a little bit of print advertising. Throughout the years, we have had a variety of different marketing consultants. Most never made it more than 2 years for one reason or the other. Micmac Agency was selected through a competitive process back in 2018. We solicited for proposals, and I believe we had 3 that we received, and Micmac was selected based on price as well as the reference checks that we received and look at her work. And so in 2018, she was selected for website management only. We were trying something new with handling our social media and graphic design internally. And after that first agreement term, Amendment 1, we went ahead and expanded the services to include website, social media, and graphic design. Then we amended it again, and it currently expired in June 30th, 2021. So just this past June, and we're currently on a month-to-month basis. So she has worked well and has probably been, or she has been the longest marketing consultant that we've had to date. Next slide. So today we are asking the bid to go ahead and consider an extension. This term would be valid from October 2021 through September 30th. And then instead of doing a full report every year, we'll come back and ask for your approval, but it will provide for 2 one-year options to extend annually. So this has the potential to extend to September of 2024. The annual cost for the services is up to $13,200. It would be a monthly cost of $1,000 per month, billed at $50 per hour, which allows for about 20 hours of work. And she has been flexible. So occasionally it'll go a little over, and 1,000 is the max per month. Chalk Festival and Wine Walk both have separate and dedicated websites that need their own work. And so those are an additional cost of about $600 each for about 12 hours per event. And just to let you guys know that this is an approved cost that was planned for and included within the BID's budget. There is $22,500 that's given to marketing, and we anticipated about this much for marketing consultant costs. And then I will also add, as far as the cost, with those 2 extensions, that locks in the price, so there won't be any increase for those next 2 years should you decide to go ahead and extend them through 2024. Next slide, please. So the recommendation is that the BID Advisory Board go ahead and approve and authorize the city manager to execute an amendment number 3, extending the agreement for marketing services with Micmac Agency. And that concludes the report. And I'm here if there are any questions.
Thank you, Valerie. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
What are the metrics that we're using to determine whether they're successful or not with the general marketing, the chalk festival, and the wine walk?
She has provided reports for us as far as the statistics, marketing statistics in the past, excuse me. Of course, we did not have an event this last year, so it's been some time since we provided the bid with something like that.
Okay. Would it be possible for us to come up with some numbers to determine whether or not they're successful, so we know that we're getting value for the money we're putting in?
Yeah, we can request an update. We can update her, ask her to go ahead and come forward and prepare a report. Certainly we can do that.
Yeah, it'd probably be important for us to determine what is success with marketing. Is it the number of people that are coming to downtown? Can we even track that? Is it the number of people that like a post? Personally, I don't think that's a great way to track success, but.
Yeah,
Valerie, we do have Louise wanting to speak. Do you want her-
Okay,
Oh,
that's,
go ahead.
Want her to speak?
yes, that's
Yeah.
fine.
We'll request her to unmute herself in a minute. Go ahead.
Hey, Matthew, to answer your question, last year was the first year I actually did the marketing for the wine walk, and you guys increased your sales. I don't remember, since it's been over 2 years since you didn't. I only had the first year to compare it to, but your sales for Glendora Village's sales for the wine walk increased significantly when I was on. I don't have those numbers just because it's been just over a year. And another thing is, in terms of engagement and excitement, because the bid hasn't had any events, a lot of the metrics are based off of, pretty much we're starting from ground zero since COVID affected many things. But the car, what's it called? The car event that took place, that wasn't an official bid event, but we did promote it. And I'm pretty sure you received a lot of traction from that. And then also the Halloween walk, we received over 600 likes on a single Instagram post, which means people are excited. So in terms of metrics, as much as I wish I can give as much as I would love to give comparisons in terms of success, we don't have anything to compare it to other than previous years, which I know for a fact we did sell out better in 2020 Wine Walk right before the pandemic versus the year before.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I mean, the way I do advertising, I don't spend any money on ads unless I can directly track.
We don't spend money on ads.
Right. But we're paying you.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Louise. I mean, my encouragement on here is when the original intent was to have a regular report on a certain frequency to the bid. But obviously, the last year and a half threw all of us for a loop with how things have been going. So, moving forward, we should reconsider getting that back into play. I don't think a monthly is probably way too much, maybe a quarterly or every 2 months to have Louise come in and provide a report. So that's my encouragement.
Happy to do that, Jesus.
And also, I have a question and a request. I have been approached by Village Eatery, particularly to just mention one case. Don had told me that the pictures that have been posted on social media are pictures from probably about 2 years ago. It doesn't show any of the remodel that he has done or the it doesn't even show people outside, his restaurant or anything. So he's very discouraged because it seems that all the pictures that have been posted lately are pictures that are from files, like previous pictures and everything. So I do believe that we need, I know when I see that I'm constantly looking at it and everything, and I would say I would be your advocate in that regard, that for the most part, I will say 90% of the posts and everything are actual current and pictures that things that are happening in the village. However, particularly with the Village Eatery, he had that concern. I don't know if any other merchants have that concern, but how would you address this, and how can we improve it so it's it helps everybody? And I on my side, I would have to say you have been fantastic, phenomenal. I've seen a lot of things from other restaurants, the ice cream, crust and crumble and everything. So, I mean, like I said, you have done a terrific job. It's just like, how can we improve this and how can we make it to where we see more of the movement and the happenings in the village, especially now with all the improvements and the beautiful patios and everything.
That's a great question, Dalal. I think, so what we do is we do like to come in once a month and just, take pictures and take random photos of what we see that's going on. In terms of streamlining it, it is hard because when business owners are not active on social, it is hard to like monitor every single business and what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So when we walk around, we don't hit up every single business spot. So, this is up for discussion and I'm happy to, it's one of those things where if you send me a DM or a text message, it's like, hey, Claire, Village Eatery wasn't represented. Can you go and take them a photo? Like Janice texted me. She's like, hey, so-and-so, Dillbeck, for instance, hasn't been featured, or Visiting Angels will be like, hey guys, like they'll send us a direct message on Instagram, be like, hey, can you feature us? And so of course, like, oh my gosh, of course. So nothing's like necessarily intentional. It's just that we like to, we base our activity based on what we see is happening. And so we don't consciously go to every single business to take a photo of what's happening. So if someone voices their concern to you in terms of the best way, I think it's just good to like, and I know you've DM'd me a few times or texted me. So just like do that. And then so I'll be like, oh, okay, we have to go to the village. And then, we're going to be there on the 29th. So it's like, oh, we need to make sure we take current pictures of this specific business because they did a remodel. So for example, like Domenico's, I would have never known they'd done a remodel because I don't walk inside it. And I'm not like, but the owner messaged me and they're like, hey, we did a remodel. Can you let us, or Crust and Crumble, they message us. They're like, hey, we did a remodel. So I think like it does help when the business owner is communicative, just because I can't read their minds. Like ultimately, I'm not a fortune teller.
No, I understand that, but like also, with not having activities and not having other things, is there a possibility that utilizing part of the budget that we have allocated towards this, is it possible to have rather, I don't know, like a person there maybe once a week, every 2 weeks or something? Is there a way that we can, improve that? Because I understand what you're saying in terms of like not everybody has first of all, I know not everybody has an Instagram. A lot of people, they do not give feed. They don't keep, posting on their Instagram and stuff. And so is there a way that we can do something a little bit different in this regard so we can kind of cover a little bit more? I mean, since like we haven't had events and things like that, utilizing that part of the budget going towards that. Is it possible?
Yes and no. It would just require me to do less activity on social because going to the village takes at least like 2 hours, 2-3 hours of photography and then editing and then, it posting. So, I mean, that's up to you guys. I'm very much hands-on on the Instagram and the stories and posting, and that itself takes its own time. So that's completely up to you guys. So I'm happy to make those arrangements, but I'm just letting you know it will take away from the daily engagement activity that we already do on our end.
Okay.
Yeah, just to let you know. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I would recommend that we just figure out what constitutes success and let Louise do whatever she thinks is best. So if we think it's success means that 10 specific businesses get featured per quarter, then we let her figure out how to do that. Or if we think success means we grow from 3,400 followers on Instagram to 4,000, then just let her figure out how to do that. Or if it's specifically this many people come to the wine walk, we bring in this much revenue from the wine walk. I don't know what the businesses in downtown Glendora want. I don't know how realistic it is for us to say that the bid marketing should directly yield changes to their revenue, nor do I think we could track that.
To your point, Matthew, I think like obviously we want to have those measurements of success, and to Jesus' point, I'm happy to obviously go back to sending the quarterly reports. But I think what Dalel is specifically saying is like, the business owner is literally saying, I need my business to be represented correctly. That's literally it. And I've had those, and that's not a success measurement. It's like an attention thing. And I totally get it. And so in terms of, I want to come up with a good solution for that, because it is hard to keep track of every single business and like see what they're up to, especially if they're not active. So I don't know if that's like a success measurement. I think it's more of just like a communication measurement from a communication standpoint.
So Matt, I think, you bring up a good point, and the old saying, right? You can't measure it, you can't manage it. So, however, I think the challenge we have here, even I do, is what's the starting point? What's the baseline? Because we haven't seen a report or statistics in quite some time. So perhaps the move is to have Louise present at one of the future meetings. What do we have, right? What measurements are in place so that we can get a view of what has been happening, whether that's followers, views, business highlights, what's been accomplished. Maybe just a consolidated, here's a status report of what we've done maybe in the last year, and using that as a basis of saying, okay, I see how in the last year we spent time here. Perhaps that leads us to a point of measurement that says, we'd like to define success in this particular area as X, and in this particular area as Y, and et cetera, just so we have an understanding of what's on there. The challenge I have is that I don't know what we're measuring. I don't know fully what we're tracking and doing. And if we get a view of that, then we can help determine, what we'd like to see going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
I think that's fair. Yeah, like working on it, like just putting together a baseline, especially since we're renewing. Like if we do renew, like we have a baseline to work with.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and also there has not been like literally a way to measure it because we didn't have the wine walk, that would be like a really one event where we can measure, because that brings in revenue. So increasing the sales, that would be a great way to measure, but like we haven't had that. So.
Okay, any other questions, comments? That being said, Lorena, can we make a decision here on asking when to have Louise back for a report?
So do you want to approve the extension for number 3 of the agreement, or do you want to continue this item to the next meeting? Is your options?
Oh, that's the option.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take it this way. We're looking for a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the amendment number 3, extending the agreement for marketing services for Mid-Mac Agency, and then we could look at adding this next piece on the next agenda item.
I make a motion to approve and amend the contract and to extend the contract for next 2 years.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Board Member Snyder, seconded by Board Member Klingler. I will now do a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder?
Aye.
Board Member Jarvis?
Aye.
Board Member Hirth?
Aye.
Board Member Klingler?
Yes.
And Vice Chair Arriaga?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, we'll carry the next item on the next agenda. Thank you, Louise. So moving on to our event plan for the Halloween walk, we're going to come back to Valerie Velasquez to present a report.
Right, so this is our annual Halloween walk event that is a very successful event that draws in quite a few children and their families as well. Halloween this year is on a Sunday. In prior years, whenever the event falls on a weekend or a Sunday, we will move it to the Friday before. And that's because, one, a lot of the businesses aren't even open on Sunday. And also a lot of the schools like to participate in this event. So having it on a Friday gives that opportunity, one, for the businesses to participate while they're open, and also for the schools to participate as well. So the event will be Friday, October 29th. It is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The street will be closed once again, so the PD will go ahead and probably start getting the street closed at about 9 a.m. The bid will go ahead and provide businesses that want to participate with 2 large bags of candy. That comes from the BID event budget. It is not nearly enough, and so businesses will be asked to go ahead and purchase additional candy to go ahead and provide the number of children that will be coming through. Our event chair is Jana Hirth, so you'll be hearing from her, and she might have some additional information also if I miss anything. But again, we are working on getting those posters done as we've done in prior years to make people aware. It's already been posted on social media. I believe there was a pretty good reaction to that as far as people, ready to participate in events outside again. Again, the budget for this, it is approved. It is at $3,000. A majority of that money does go to candy, and then some additional funds are used to go ahead and decorate the downtown as well, and buy supplies for that, balloons and whatnot, photo backdrops. There will be a costume contest once again this year. Top Billing will go ahead and help with doing that. And then an email was sent out asking to see if any businesses did want to provide sponsorships. We do look for those. They get some additional marketing for their donation, and it allows us to do a little bit more. Again, most of the budget, over $2,000, typically goes towards candy. There's also an idea of possibly getting a children's train ride to be placed at the end of the street. I believe that cost was not included in the budget, but it's about $750 for, is it 3 hours, Jenna? I believe it's 3 hours,
Right.
which would be for the time of the event. And again, that's, we would make sure we could fit it into our budget, or if we can get some additional sponsorships. And if anybody is interested in sponsoring with our newspaper print ads, the deadline is next week early. So we need to know if anybody is willing to do a donation by this, I believe by this Friday was the cutoff date. But that completes this report. If anybody has questions, or Jana, if I missed anything that you want to add.
Just the main thing I want to add is that we are looking for volunteers to help, especially the day of. We've got some setup. We do some setup in the bus plaza. We'll have the costume contest, the red carpet, and the step and repeat that will be detailed with the sponsors. We are definitely looking for sponsors. I've got a couple of sponsors who are interested in sponsoring something. So that's where the train situation came in, is trying to get a little bit of added value on that. But definitely looking for day of sponsors to help us get things set up on the day, get the balloons out, get the 2, I don't know what those are called, the kind of pergolas, I guess, in the bus plaza decorated, things along those lines. And then just to throw it out there, if anybody on the board wants to participate, I am actually out of the country for a couple of weeks next October. So I won't be able to do it next October. So if anybody wants to come in and get their hands wet on this one and see how it all goes so that they can possibly run it for next year, that would be great. So that's what I've got to add for now.
Okay, any other questions, discussion?
I have a question. At what time do you need the volunteers at the bus plaza? I heard Platinum Lashes, they wanted to volunteer and sponsor.
Okay,
So I can
I'm sorry.
connect them with you.
So they want to volunteer bodies, you mean? Okay. I can connect with them once we get the exact final timelines of when everything's going to happen. It all happens, obviously, if you recall, early in the morning to get the bus plaza set up. Because we want to have everything all set up and ready to go by usually around 9. So we're there pretty early for that. The balloons will be provided. They just need to, usually we take them up and down the street. So they need to, in little clusters. So we'll just need somebody to help kind of navigate that process. So I'll connect with them. That's a manager over there that
Yeah,
is
her name,
assistant?
yeah, Melissa. Her name is Melissa.
Right.
They're really interested, and then they really wanted to be part of it.
Great, perfect.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions, discussion? So Valerie, is it allowed or appropriate, or Lorena, either one of you, for us to, as a bid board, to approve additional funding to cover that train if the sponsors don't?
You can add it to the motion that you would like to have the additional cost to cover.
Okay,
You just have to state it, obviously, as the motion. And then also, I wanted to it for the record that Board Member Klingler left the meeting. He had another appointment at 9:30, so he's no longer joined in there.
understood and noted. Thank you. So on the addition, I mean, obviously, if we can get sponsors to cover that, that would be great, considering we haven't really had much activity. I think this also goes a long way for our children in Glendora, because they look, definitely forward to that. My recommendation would be that if we can cover part of that through sponsorship, but if we're falling short, I think you mentioned it's going to cost $700, right?
$750 for one. I think Jenna, you said it was about one train would provide about 16 rides at 16 people at one for one ride.
Yeah, 16 children or 12 adults. So obviously I'm thinking we're going to have kind of a combination of that. So I just use 12 to be conservative per ride.
Yeah.
And I will just to give you guys some information. I'm trying to go back to the budget. You guys had approved. I don't see it in here, but I'm gonna have to look back. Maybe you didn't. I guess that was last year, but you do have additional funding available that we haven't used. So we probably should be okay if you want to go ahead and leave it to staff and finance to kind of maneuver money from other accounts, because we can't take money that's not already in the approved budget.
Yeah, and that would be my recommendation, since we do have that in the budget already and it just hasn't been used, to approve up to the 750. But of course, that's to help cover, any of the deficit that a sponsorship would not cover. Any questions or discussion on that?
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
So I'll move to approve the event plan for the 2021 Halloween Walk.
And add to that, we're also looking to add to the motion to approve moving up to $750 from an unused budget item to the Halloween Walk to be used for the train expense. Do we have a motion to that?
Make a motion to approve the $750 to move it towards the sponsorship for this year.
Okay, do we have a second?
Can I second if I'm a chair?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I
So we have a
second.
motion made by Board Member Snyder, seconded by Board Member Hurth. I will call for a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder,
Aye.
Board Member Jarvis,
Aye.
Board Member Hurth,
Aye.
Board Member Klinger is now absent, and Vice Chair Arriaga.
Yes.
So motion carries 4-0 with the additional of the funds of the appropriate to make the adjustments for the train added for the Halloween Walk.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to our next item is the event plan for Small Business Saturday. So back to Valerie.
Okay, we have a slideshow for this one as well. Okay, next slide. So Small Business Saturday is the kickoff to the holiday season. This is a event that was designed to support small businesses, brick and mortar shops. It is the first Saturday after Thanksgiving. This year it falls on Saturday, November 27th, 2021. Next slide, please. Again, this event is one that has been included in the BID budget. To date, in past years, all of our events have typically been organized by a BID business who goes ahead and donates and volunteers their time to go ahead and be the event chair. This year, we don't have anybody who stepped up to donate their time to volunteer and coordinate the Small Business Saturday event. And so the option was either we just go ahead and cancel it and do nothing, or we decided to reach out to the marketing consultant and see if there was something that she could coordinate and plan for. Next slide, please. And so her idea was to go ahead and do something a little bit different, a little bit out of the box for what we have done before. And that would be to do a social media marketing campaign where we're reaching out to an audience that's beyond the normal target market for the village. It's beyond Glendora and surrounding cities and whatnot. And again, it would be a social media campaign where she would reach out and coordinate with influencers who are people who have a large following, and their attention to a business, product, or location through social media posts potentially has the power to affect the behaviors and purchasing decisions of their audience. So again, this is something different for the city, but it is something where knowing that influencers do have a larger following than the city has beyond what the village has, in order to get them to come to your area, your business, your downtown, whatever it is that you're trying to promote, they typically will receive complimentary products, or there's a cost to have them come down and give some attention to your area. Next slide, please. The budget for Small Business Saturday is $4,000. The breakdown on how those funds would be used is we have a street banner. We would just go ahead and change and update that at a cost of about $300. The marketing consultant would need to coordinate and find the appropriate influencers that make sense to reach out to. And so she would devote about 8 to 10 hours at a cost of $400 to $500. The influencers cost between $100 and $500 each, depending on what their audience, how big it is, how many followers, and what their reach is. And so that could range from maybe $1,500 to $2,500. And then there's a possibility of bringing in the horse carriage, or again, the train ride that we had just mentioned. That's actually a little picture of the train. And the horse carriages are about $12.50. The price did go up this year, or the train rides are $7.50. And then we do usually some print ads for that, but that is actually taken from the marketing budget. So it wouldn't be included here, but I just wanted to let you know that we would do that. And so the total event budget would stay within the $4,000 approved budget. Next slide, please. So the recommendation is to approve the Small Business Saturday event plan to be managed by the marketing consultant, and you're free to modify the budget, move things around if you wanted to. If anyone else has any ideas and wants to head Small Business Saturday, that's an option as well, or we would cancel Small Business Saturday. So this is something new. Louise is on the phone if anybody has questions as well, but if not, that concludes this report, and I return it to the bid for questions and discussion.
Thank you, Valerie. We'll open it up for any discussion, questions. If I may add some input, that I think the option to cancel and do nothing is probably, my recommendation is not an option.
I agree.
Yeah, we have to do something. The challenge, of course, is that we didn't have anybody step up like in the past, and it's understandable with all that is going on. It's understandable why we probably didn't get any volunteers. This is an interesting concept. And one of the things we kind of adopted probably 2-3 years back was really to start to be open to different things. And this would be an interesting approach. It's very common used approach in a lot of the marketing efforts. And if we decide to do something, if we decide to do bullet point 1 and move forward with that, would be an excellent opportunity to decide to ensure that we're capturing metrics to determine the success of that. Because if it is very successful compared to what we've done in the past, that's something we can utilize to bring to the table again and present to the bid members and say, this is what this did, and maybe this is a new approach. Times are changing, and social media and internet and things like that are changing the landscape on how we do business. So this certainly would be something very different than we've done in the past. Other questions, comments?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think this is completely thinking outside the box. It's genius idea, and I think it'll be very beneficial. Plus, also, there's like a lot of marketing that comes with this, like through American Express and everything. So it does have great exposure. I agree with you that cancel is not an option. We need to revamp and bring more people to the village. So that would be my my feedback.
I would like to also make a comment or suggestion. As far as the train rides and the horse-drawn carriage goes, I think we should forgo those options for this event because we already do it for a Halloween walk and the holiday stroll. Maybe we could have some pop-up events or something like that. Some fun thing, an unusual thing that pops up in the village just for that day.
That's a good point.
It's a good point, but also I don't know how because the event is coming up very soon, so I don't know how fast we can move that. And since we don't have a chair for this event particularly, maybe we can think about that like for next year to think about other activities. But since we already have the connections and everything with the train people, and that does attract a lot of families and everything, it brings a lot of movement to it brings a lot of traffic to the village, and the connections are already there. And then to be consistent with what we're doing, and those are very people really like doing those things. So just for the time being, we don't have time to literally start looking for other things or anything, and especially because of a budget.
Okay, but that's still going to be up to the marketing consultant, correct? Because they're in charge of the budget and they would be in charge of this event.
So the marketing people won't be in charge of the train and the horse thing that we were suggesting or recommending.
That's something we're doing directly, right?
I'm sorry?
That's something we're doing directly.
That would be something we would coordinate, yes.
Did that answer your question, Kathy?
So guess I'm just not understanding the consideration for the event plan for Small Business Saturday. If we're approving the marketing consultant to go forward with this, we're still having different chairs for different events.
Every event has a different chair. This one and every event has some assistance from the marketing committee to some degree, as well as the city. The city tries to really just be a support factor and not necessarily coordinate the whole event. In this instance, we have connections, as mentioned, with the train and the horse carriage. So that's really just a phone call. There's not really any time committed to doing that. But the marketing consultant would be in charge of, again, researching and make sure that they are selecting the appropriate influencers to go ahead and work with and coordinate, bringing them in, making sure the businesses they're visiting are going to be aware that they'll be visited. And so that really is the function of what her role will be.
Okay, so she's coordinating the event.
Yes.
Okay. So if we have any input or any suggestions, we would talk to her about that kind of thing.
Right, but I think that if you're talking about adding something additional, that should be aired out right now, because right now that's her only task to do.
Okay, so what was presented is what we're gonna go with.
Right.
That's
correct.
That's the proposal.
Okay.
Correct. Like if you knew exactly what you wanted to do and you said, instead of that $700, $1,200, I would like to do this and I can do this. You can tell us right now, but again, we don't have the bodies willing to volunteer their time to do that. And so
Right.
that's why we presented this. But
Okay.
again, if you had an idea that you wanted to run off the board and say, I can do this with this amount of money, I'm certain I can, do you approve me to do it? But you'd have to take that responsibility.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not that confident at this point. Like, I don't think. So I'm just gonna,
Okay, but we answered your question. I just want to make sure you fully
yeah,
understand.
thank
Okay.
you.
Any other discussions, questions? So it sounds like there's agreement on the first bullet point to basically approve. So we're looking for a motion to approve the Small Business Saturday event plan to be managed by the marketing consultant. I'm going to add with a modification that we determine or we ensure metrics are being recorded and that gets presented to the bid at a later meeting once that's compiled, so we know the success of that.
Okay, and if Louise, if I could just have you confirm that you're aware that you'll be asked to come back, I think, and kind of report on how this project worked out and the metrics from it. Can
You're
we?
on mute.
There we go.
Yeah, confirmed.
Okay.
So we're looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Small Business Saturday event plan with modification to present a report for this event.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Jarvis. Okay, so we have a motion made by Board Member Snyder, seconded by Board Member Jarvis. I will call for a roll call vote. Board Member Snyder,
Aye.
Board Member Jarvis,
Aye.
Board Member Hirth,
Aye.
Board Member Klingler is absent, so Vice Chair Arriaga.
Yes,
Motion carries 4-0.
excellent. Thank you all. All right, we're at the end, so we're given opportunity for any closing comments from my fellow board members. So I will go through the list. Board Member Snyder, any closing comments?
Thank you. I would like to thank you all for the opportunity for being welcomed back into the board. I'm really excited about this. I really want to do my best to serve and to be with you guys. It's just like really a pleasure. Thank you so much for everything you've done in this past year.
Excellent. Board Member Jarvis.
Again, I just like to thank you, and it's a pleasure to serve on the board, and I look forward to this coming year.
Excellent. Board Member Hirth.
Just like to welcome you both and looking forward to working on some events and getting some things happening in the village again this year.
Great.
Yay.
Board Member Klinger is not here. That comes to me. We want to welcome Kathy to the board and Dalal back to the board. So welcome officially. And also want to make mention that we keep our fellow business owner and bid board member and past chair in our thoughts and prayers, Gary Andrews, for a quick recovery. As we all probably know, he's struggling with some health issues, and also to keep Connie in thoughts and prayers there as she's providing the care for Gary. So let's keep them in mind. And any comments from Director Kugel?
I believe he's no longer here on the meeting with us.
Snuck out.
I think Stephen might have some updates for us on, just give you an update on the parklet status.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Mel, I thought you were doing that. My apologies. So we're undertaking just a review of the permits and just making sure that, again, we're keeping the street clear and working with any businesses on troubleshooting some of the lighting issues, as well as some of the other lessons learned from their operation. They've been up for about a month and a half now. So we'll be working with them. Vanessa, who is my colleague, she'll be sending out a letter to the businesses, just detailing some of the updates that we have. And one other note is earlier this week, we had South Pasadena Chamber of Commerce come out and look at our parklets for some inspiration. They're looking at doing the same thing in their on Mission in South Pasadena. So they're very impressed with the cooperation of the city and the bid and the chamber. And, we're very impressed by how it all looks and came together. So, as staff, we just want to say thank you to the bid for the partnership and getting a really successful program together.
Excellent. The bar is set.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other staff comments? Okay.
Congratulations on that. Everything looks beautiful. Thank you for all your hard work.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, being none, I will adjourn the meeting. My clock says 9:54 a.m., not p.m. All righty, everybody have a great